Welcome back. Aramis Ayala is in the midst of a difficult, almost quixotic bid to defeat Republican Ashley Moody in the race for Attorney General. Moody has more money and is riding the coattails of Governor Ron DeSantis. I wanted to speak to Ayala, a death penalty opponent, not just about her campaign, but also about how politicians from both parties have criticized the jury decision in the Nicholas Cruz case for not sentencing him to death. But I started by asking about her campaign.
It's easy to pontificate and to think about it, but the reality is I'm expecting an unexpectedly high turnout. And that is because there are a lot of people who aren't in the political conversations. They may not read the political blogs or newspapers, but they are ready for change. And they understand that their rights and their freedoms are under attack. And I genuinely believe those are the people who are going to shock us.
Now, there's a huge disparity when it comes to the financing of this race. I don't know. I haven't checked to see lately how much you've raised in your campaign. Maybe you can tell us. But I know Ashley Moody is far outspending you. I'm getting flyers. I'm seeing TV commercials. I'll admit I'm not seeing or receiving those things from your campaign.
Well, I mean, it's definitely, when you look at the numbers, it certainly looks that way. I just always go back to the why. And I don't think voters are stupid. When you are the Attorney General, who will put the office up for sale, who, owes a lot of, people, organizations, companies, that changes the dynamic of the race. There's a quid pro quo going on. So I'm never going to put the office up for sale. I'm going to continue to represent the grassroots. I'm going to continue to represent the people of the state of Florida and those who really, truly want change. There's a difference between, having a lot of money and representing the establishment and representing big power, big sugar, Florida Power and Light, all of those things. There's a big difference because the reality is there's only one vote, and some of those organizations and companies aren't a vote at all.
Now, I want to press you because when you say having her office for sale, basically implying that her office has been sold to corporate interests, that's a very serious charge. So I want to hear what you specifically have that backs that up, other than just your belief that she favors Florida Power and Life, your belief that she favors big sugar. That's a serious accusation to throw out there.
Well, I mean, the reality is, if you look at her finances, if you see the numbers, they've given her a significant amount of money. And when people are and corporations are making contributions that are large, there's an expected return. Even the people who have given to me, if it's $5, they're investing and expecting a return. So the question we have to ask is, what return are they expecting from her?
Well, but just because somebody donates to a campaign doesn't mean that candidate is now bought by those people. In the same way that you sort of say, anyone who donates to your campaign, you don't owe them anything other than to do the work that you promised to do. That's where I'm having.
I disagree with that. The people who make a contribution to my campaign, I feel like I am obligated to serve them. Like, you are believing in me, you're investing in me. I'm asking for your contribution to support the foundation of my campaign. She doesn't have a foundation for her campaign. So when people are giving, what is it that they're giving to? What is she running on? She doesn't have a platform. She says she's for law enforcement, but not on January 6th. She says she's for human trafficking, but not when the governor is trafficking people. So the reality is we have to make the distinction. Then why are they giving to her?
All right, well, let me ask it this way. Rather than make the case as to why people should not vote for Ashley Moody, make the case for why people should be voting for Aramis Ayala.
Absolutely. I'm very comfortable with that. We have to, when you come to the job of the Attorney General, you have to have an Attorney General who understands the job. The job of the Attorney General is to be a voice for the people. That's what I have always been. It is to understand that the constitutional rights have been under attack. Our right to privacy, I am going to fight for that. Our right to love who we love and marry who we want to marry, I'm going to fight for that. And certainly our fundamental right to vote, I am going to protect that. When there are amendments to our Constitution, when there is history of this country that says that there has been systemic oppression, we have to have an Attorney General who is going to fight for the people, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm asking for the vote because I am ready to fight and advocate for the people and to ensure that our rights and our freedoms are protected.
All right, I want to talk about the Nicholas Cruz verdict, where 3 jurors ended up deciding that there was an issue that did not merit the death penalty as a result. This has become a flashpoint, and it's been very common. Lots of politicians, Democrats, Republicans, when the few things we sort of hear common agreement on is they all disagree with the decision of the jury. They all say that that Nicholas Cruz should be put to death. The public at large, if you were to vote on it publicly, I'm sure that's probably where it may very well come down, just because of the heinous nature of the crime. Even in last night's, even in the governor's debate, both Charlie Crist and Ron DeSantis had agreement on Nicholas Cruz should be put to death. And both candidates, Ron DeSantis more so, said we need to make changes to the law to make sure in the future it's easier to put people to death. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, there's multiple issues. Number one, where's the focus on the family's healing? Because the reality is the families have waited for a long time for what everyone else defined as justice. So because we define justice as only death, there are so many families who are left out there believing that they didn't get justice. Justice is a process and an outcome. And we have to ensure that when we were going through this process, that no matter what, it is just, and we don't predefine what it is. I understand the emotion that goes into it. I understand that the families need to be able to heal. That's the one part of it. The other part is that we have a system of justice. And I've been a public defender, I've been a state attorney and the elected state attorney. I've done trials, prosecuted them, and defended them. In that capacity, you understand that when you finish your closing arguments, when the judge reads the instructions, it is in the jury's hands, and we are to respect and honor that decision. As long as the law has been followed, there is no injustice, and we have to respect and honor that. It's one thing to have your opinion and say, if I were a juror, I believe I would rule this way. But to suggest that jurors who took their time out of their lives to fulfill their civic duty did it wrong, that is a concern. The families can feel that way. Even politicians can feel that way. But when you're creating this rhetoric, why are we who wants to sit on a jury after that? I know that that's a scary thing to think that you are putting your job, your finances, and your family like sitting on the sides. Oftentimes you have been sequestered away from your family, and now you have to face the ridicule and the death threats and all that comes along with it. That's not a system of justice.
Up next, the chairman of the Miami-Dade Republican Party, and later, more of my interview with Charlie Crist.